Evening everyone, this is Shadi Abu Yusuf and we're still talking about classroom management, and in this episode we'll be talking about using L1 in the English classroom, and we're going to start by talking about why we shouldn't be using L1 as a medium of instruction, and then we're going to talk also about why a lot of teachers say that they have to use L1 when teaching beginners, and then we're going to move to what we call the judicious use of L1 with monolingual classes, right? So let's just start with the first point. Now, why we should not be using L1 as a medium of instruction. And the first reason is because think about a multilingual class. How would you use your first language to teach English, for example, when you have a multilingual class, multilingual students, like someone from an Arab country sitting along with someone from Brazil, someone from Spain, someone from this or from here or there. Again, it's impossible. So you have to teach English in English, because once you have someone who's got a mother tongue that is different from the other students, it becomes impossible to use L1 in the classroom. So this is the first reason why we shouldn't be using Arabic or L1 as a medium of instruction. Right. Now, the second reason is because if you teach English using the L1, and in our scenario, because we're Egyptians and our first language is Arabic, so if you teach English using Arabic, you are depriving your students from a lot of exposure to English language. And the classroom is the place where they should be listening to English. So if you keep teaching them English in Arabic, you are exposing them to the mother tongue one more time, over and over and over again. Do they really need to be exposed to the mother tongue? They need to be exposed more to English so that they can acquire it later. And this is why a lot of Egyptian students, when they study this way and they keep studying English, or they're being taught English in Arabic for years and years, finally they don't speak in English. So you might find this student who's been studying English for 14 years of his life and he's unable to speak a word. That's a problem, innit? So again, using L1 in the classroom as a medium of instruction is a very bad idea. First, because it doesn't fit with multilingual classes. Second, you're depriving your students from a lot of exposure to English language, and they need this exposure to master the language, right? So again, zero acquisition in classes where the first language is used as a medium of instruction. And that's why we say we hate it, we don't like it this way, right? Another point, which is some teachers would say, but wait a minute, how would we use English as a medium of instruction when we're teaching true beginners? And as you know, we've got two kinds of beginners. We've got true beginners and false beginners. And true beginners, those are the guys who have never been exposed to English language before. They don't even know the letters. They haven't been taught English in their whole life. They haven't listened to English at all. And these are true beginners. So a lot of teachers say, but again, come on. How can we teach those people English in English without using the first language? They wouldn't be able to understand anything. And I'd say this is a myth. And the reason why I say this is a myth, because again, you can still teach English in English to the weakest students in the world. How come? I mean, again, imagine that you're teaching the word hand. All what you need to do with this beginner is to show him your hand, point at it and say, hand. Listen carefully. Hand, hand, hand. And then they repeat after you. Well, I mean, you don't have to be great in English to know now that hand means what it means in your first language. Because remember, true beginners might be weak, I would say true beginners are really weak at the target language, but they're still human beings. They're not aliens. Once you show them a hand and you point at it and you say hand, they understand what it means. You don't have to use the first language here. You don't have to use Arabic. Imagine that you're teaching anything else, like you're teaching the word, for example, iPad, right? And all what you need to do is to show them an iPad, right? And then you start pointing out to say, iPad, right? And once you point at it and you say iPad, you know, this is an iPad, right? That's it. Again, they're human beings. Their level of English might be low, okay, but they still understand everything. And again, all what you need to do is, through beginners, is be ready with your flashcards, be ready with your visual aids. That's what we advise you to do. But claiming that it is impossible to teach English to true beginners without using the first language, I say, no, that's completely untrue. Good. And here we comes to the third part of today's episode, which is the judicious use of L1 in the English classroom. Yes, we refuse the use of L1 as a medium of instruction in the English classroom. However, we still believe that the judicious use of L1 in the classroom is really great. Now, what do we mean by the judicious use of L1 in the classroom? It is using L1 for good purposes. And someone might ask, Shadi, and can it really happen? I say, yes, of course. Again, I mean, think of monolingual classes. And when we say monolingual classes, we're talking here about most of the classes we teach every day. Most of these classes are monolingual. People keep making a big fuss about multilingual classes. However, okay, most of the classes we have here in Egypt, for example, are monolingual. And a lot of classes in different countries are monolingual. And I believe that monolingual classes are even more than multilingual classes. Okay, right. So if we're teaching monolingual classes, then L1 is a powerful tool in teaching. And we shouldn't be neglecting L1 completely. We need to think of how to use L1 effectively in the English language classroom. This is what we need to do, not to actually avoid using it completely. Right. Now, for these reasons, number one, translation is a natural phenomenon. What do we mean by that? Because again, think of it. We always encourage everything that is natural in the English classroom. We keep telling teachers, you should stop doing this because it's unnatural. And you should do this more because it's so natural. And translation is so natural. Once you travel to a different country, you start looking for translation so that you understand. So you start actually using your first language and you compare it with the second language so that you can, understand more. And so again, translation is so natural. Bringing translation in the English classroom is absolutely fine. Because again, it's what we do in real life. It's what everybody does. So it shouldn't be something alienated. It shouldn't be something strange. Another reason is we should not devalue our students' own language and culture. Again, Arabic is the Egyptians' first language. And why would we devalue Arabic? We can make good use of Arabic in the classroom. And what I mean by good use of Arabic, it means the use of Arabic that leads to more production of English. And we're going to watch some videos that might give us some ideas of how we might do this, right? Good. Now, so another reason is communicating with the students in the mother tongue seems to improve teacher-student rapport. And obviously, some use of Arabic in the classroom is great. And I don't mean using Arabic here as a medium of instruction. I mean maybe throwing a quick joke in Arabic here, saying an Arabic word from here to there, maybe getting in the classroom and speaking to students a bit in Arabic at the very beginning of the class. But then once you start teaching, you teach in English, of course. Well, that would help rapport so much as well. So again, another point here, using Arabic in the classroom deepens understanding of lexis and grammar through contrastive analysis. And what we mean by contrastive analysis is comparing the linguistic features of L1 with the linguistic features of L2. or comparing the linguistic features of Arabic with the linguistic features of English. And it really helps, because it makes the students understand how English is different from Arabic and how Arabic is different from English, and also understand the similarities. And that deepens their understanding. So it sounds ridiculous that we have those similarities and we don't use them for teaching. So again, L1 is a power that is really neglected, and it should be brought back to the English classroom as long as it doesn't overshadow English in the classroom, of course, and English is still used as a medium of instruction. However, we need to use L1 for good purposes, or as we call it, the judicious use of L1 in the English language classroom. Right. Another reason Arabic can help students with productive activities. And someone might think, and say, Shadi, come on, for God's sake, how can L1 help with the production of L2? We're not used to this. And I say, no, L1 can be used to lead to more production of L2. For example, one thing you can do, again, let's think about this. When we speak, our minds do two jobs. Number one, our minds look for ideas and they structure the language. So when we're speaking, the mind is looking for ideas and structuring the language. Now, what you can do simply is you can get your students to discuss something in Arabic for 2 minutes. And then once they finish this discussion in Arabic, you ask them to repeat this discussion in English. Now, what happens here is that when they discuss this topic first in Arabic, their minds looked for all ideas. So now they have the ideas in their minds. When you ask them to speak about this topic again, but in English, now they don't have to look for ideas. All what they need to do is focus on a structure in the language. And that makes their speaking more accurate. It raises the level of accuracy when students are speaking. So that's again one way of using L1 that is going to encourage more production of L2 and increase the production of L2. One last good use of Arabic or L1 in the classroom is it helps with generating students' interest in the lesson topics. So one thing you can do is that you can play a video from a very famous Egyptian movie or a very famous Egyptian play, and then you play this video for students. They get really interested in this video, and then you start asking them questions about it, and you hold a conversation with them about this video. Again, so now let's move, before we finish, let's move to some videos where you can see good use of Arabic as a first language in the classroom. And also we would show you a bad example of using L1 as a medium of instruction in the classroom. Let's go and see. طيب ماشي يا جماعه. طيب نركز بقى دلوقتي، تعالوا نتكلم في الفورم بتاع he used to. فلو قلنا مثلا he used to study hard. طيب he دي يا جماعه عباره عن ايه؟ تمام. طيب used to ده ممكن نقول modal verb اللي هو ايه؟ اللي بنسميه فعل ايه؟ ناقص. ماشي. modal verb. طب study ده infinitive. ماشي. تمام، حلو جدا. وهارد ده ايه؟ adverb. مش كده؟ تمام. طيب حلو جدا. طب احنا لو النهارده عايزين نستخدم النفي بتاع الجمله دي، اقول هي ايه؟ didn't. طب هو ايه؟ used. Okay, so he didn't used to. Right? He didn't used to ايه؟ study. وبعدين في الاخر؟ حلو جدا. تمام. طب لو عايز اعمل سؤال بقول ايه؟ did تمام. حلو قوي. used to ايه؟ study. طيب في الحالة دي did هيبقى ايه؟ تمام. فاعل مساعد he فاعل تمام. used to modal verb وstudy infinitive خلاص وهارد تمام كده. Okay, so he used to study hard. Okay? Right. So, what about he? Used to. Yeah, right. Study. Very good. What about hard? Yeah, right. So, now what if I said they? What would I do? They? Yeah. Will I change anything?
No.
Yeah.
Study.
Yeah. Very good. Now let's think about the negative form, right? So, let's say they. Yeah, right. And will I say used to?
No.
Okay, it's
Used.
yeah, used to. So no ed here anymore. Right. So they didn't used to.
Study.
Very good. And finally, brilliant, good, lovely. So now let's think about the interrogative one or the question form, right? So okay, so let's see. How can I make a question using he? Yes. And then
He or they.
or they, yes, and then
Used to.
No.
oh yeah, right. Okay,
Study.
very good. Nice. So, if we think about did, what's did? Lovely job. Yes. And he?
Subject.
Nice. Used to? And study? Very good. So, okay, everybody, when I say I was nervous, how would you translate this into Arabic? So, what does nervous mean in Arabic? What do you think? Mitnerfis. Okay. And mitnerfis in English? Yeah. So again, so wait a minute. So we have here mitnerfis. My Arabic looks horrible. Oh my God. But anyway, wait a minute. Nervous does not mean mitnerfis in Arabic. Because nervous in English actually means worried and afraid. But what about mitnerfis in Arabic? What does it mean?
Angry.
Oh yes, actually. It means angry. So, when you go to the dentist, how do you feel? Do you feel angry or do you feel nervous?
Nervous.
Exactly. So, it's not the same meaning, right? Okay, good. Okay, everybody. Now, let's have a look at this. أنا أذاكر الساعة 9. أنا هبدأ بذاكر الساعة 9. I want you to look at these two Arabic sentences, and both of them are in the past, present, or future. Wonderful. What I want you to do, I want you to work with your partner and try to translate these two sentences into English. Okay? So, together, I want you to discuss, and both of you together help each other.
I will be studying at 9 o'clock.
Okay, so let's check. So أنا هذاكر الساعة 9. How would you translate this?
I will study
Okay.
at 9
At 9 o'clock. Okay. That's good. Yeah, I love it. Excellent translation. What about this one? Who's for it? Yes?
I will be studying.
Okay. I will be.
Studying.
Uh-huh.
At 9 o'clock.
Excellent answer. Now, I want you to notice this. أنا هذاكر. أنا هبدأ بذاكر. So, what is the difference in meaning between أنا هذاكر الساعة 9 and أنا هبدأ بذاكر الساعة 9? Can you tell me what's the difference? I mean, think about the difference in your first language, in Arabic. How do these sound different?
The first one starts on time.
Okay.
The second one will be studying yes.
During that time.
Maybe we started before.
Maybe he?
Started before.
Excellent answer. So when you say, I will study at 9 o'clock, it means that
I will study.
you would have started. But when you say, I'll be studying at 9 o'clock, it means that you will be busy doing this because you started it before, right? And usually we use this form here when we're trying to tell people that we will be busy at that time doing something, right? Like someone is asking you, can I visit you at 9? And then you say, sorry, I'll be studying actually at 9 o'clock. So, right, thank you so much. Right, now what I want you to do, I want you to work together and talk about your favorite kinds of movies and your favorite actors. But I want you to do this in Arabic. Okay, not in English, no. So start your discussion in Arabic first. So, the three of you together, all of you together. Go on.
كوميدي بيبقى الممثل الكوميدي بالنسبة لي بالنسبة لي بتبقى أفلام رعب. العربي طبعا الكوميدي. قليل جدا لو شفت أفلام عربي، ما أعرفش أتفرج على أفلام عندي بقى أفلام الممثلين الأجانب بنات طبعا توم كروز. بالنسبة للممثلين المصريين بحب كريم عبد العزيز تمثيله.
عمري بس أمس.
لا مفروض لا أريد جدا على فكرة. لا حد yeah, that's better than just
Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Now, what I want you to do is to repeat the very same conversation you've had in Arabic, but this time in the one. Start. Come on.
Favorite movies you like?
I was watching
Titanic.
my favorite actor. I don't watch lots of English movies. Here, my favorite actor is Cage. I prefer to listen to songs.
So, okay everyone, now we're going to watch a video. It's taken from an Arabic play. Watch it carefully and think what the main topic of today is. Right? Okay, let's see this.
شفتي كل شيء بسبب علمي الحد العمر الافتراضي بتاعه بينتهي.
ادم شفت التلفزيون ده؟
مالناش دعوه. مالناش دعوه.
اكتر من 100.
مالناش دعوه.
لا ماما
مالناش دعوه.
اتفرج شويه على الألوان.
ايوه استنى يا سيدي.
لو شفت الوان هشوفها فين؟
هو كده هيبقى حرب.
مش قادره. مش قادره خلاص. مش هيفهم استنى بقى. عيني هتطلع عليك.
وحياة خالتك. ماشي يا ابو ماشي. يا عيني يا سلام.
Okay, right, so let's turn on the lights. Okay, now, so what's the main topic of this video? So the topic is? Okay, wonderful. Have you ever met someone like the lady in the video? Or seriously? Can you tell me about this?
Okay, someone was talking to me about my wallet, my watch, and suddenly it just fell down. I was
really?
like, wow, it's so pretty. I said, yeah, is it expensive? No. And then, can I see it? Yes, sure. And it fell down and broke.
Ooh.
It was weird.
What did you say?
Well, it was broken. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So what about you guys? Have you met people like these before? That we can describe as envious?
I met someone before. I was wearing a new shoe, and he told me that it's very expensive and actually expensive. And like a week after that, it was broken from me.
Okay, oh really?
Yeah. And the leather said it was cut.
Okay, so it's cut off in 1 week. Oh my God. 1 week after.
Yeah, and it was a very expensive shoe. Yeah.
They were expensive. Oh my Lord. So what about you, Noor? Have you met people like these before?
Yes, actually, was my hair. She came to my home and saw my hair and something like that. Oh, nice! I'm so
I don't wanna.
Next day, I found my hair beside me, not
Oh,
yeah.
so you lost a lot. Oh Lord. Oh, well, that's dangerous. Thank you so much. So, to sum up the main points in today's episode, we would say, please do not use L1 as a medium of instruction in a classroom. Number 2, be sure that you can run a fantastic lesson to real beginners using only English as a medium of instruction, and you wouldn't have to use L1 at all. Number 3, using L1 in a monolingual class is not a sin. It is actually great to use L1 in a monolingual class judiciously, and what we mean by judiciously, for good reasons. So, thank you so much for watching this episode. And again, if you like this video, don't forget to press like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications. This was Shadi Abu Yusuf. See you again. Bye bye for now.